a very warm welcome to the webinar. Now, I hope everyone's taking precautions to stay safe and managing through these uncertain times. I'm Divya and I'm the product marketer of SalesIQ. I've been working in Zoho for close to 5 years now, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. So if you have any questions during the session, please save it for the end. So you can click on the raise hand option on the left pane of your window and talk to us when we are open for questions, or you can just drop it in the Q&A tab again on your left pane. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the agenda. So in this webinar, we'll be talking about how to drive more quality sales leads and build credibility among them, how to boost your chances of establishing contact with your leads, and once you do that, how to increase your chances of conversion. And once you're done with the entire sales cycle, how to make sure that this is not a one-off thing and ensure a steady sales growth from your existing customers. And finally, how to handle the dreaded no. So first on the list, driving more quality leads. Now, there's no magic or secret formula behind sales professionals who consistently exceed their targets or outperform their peers. Nor do they necessarily work any extra hours like we think. The only difference lies in how they utilize their time. So, selling smarter starts with pursuing only your most highly qualified leads with a higher chance of conversion. So, how do we do this? So, first, you need to define who your ideal customer is. Now, if you don't already have an ideal customer profile, that should be your first step. Now, how do we do that? So, first off, by identifying your best existing customers. Now, when I say best customers, it could sound a little vague. So, let me narrow it down for you. Look for customers who converted with the shortest sales cycles and the lowest acquisition cost based on how well your product or service is doing, the most renewals, and even upsells. So you can also consider customers who've given you the best feedback, um, shown interest in learning how to use your product better, and maybe also given you the most referrals. Now, once you've found out your best existing customers, you need to analyze their customer journey map, demographics, find out why they chose you in the first place and how they converted so quickly and the pain points you've solved for them. So if you are in B2B sales, you might also need to consider their business role, job role, business area, the extent of their decision-making power, and who the main decision makers are. Now, there's software these days to help you map their buyer journey and their role in the industry, company, industry, and even company size. But for the rest, you'll need to set up an interview with them or get their answers through a survey, whatever is most convenient for your customers. And most happy customers will be ready to do this when you pitch this as a way to improve the product or service and give them the power to see how the product shapes up as a customer. So in sales, time is money, right? So it's imperative to automate as much of the sales process as you possibly can. Now, a chatbot on your website can help you collect information from leads, answer questions for you, or even show them the right products based on their requirements. So building a chatbot isn't rocket science anymore. Thanks to all the codeless bot platforms in the market, making it as easy as building a flowchart or even building something right out of a Lego set. We've all played with that as children. So all you have to do is drag and drop pre-built blocks to create a bot flow, write your bot responses, and publish it. Now, once you automate your lead generation and have an ideal customer profile ready, you need to vet through your leads based on your ICP. Now, this can be automated too if your sales automation software has a lead scoring option. So all you have to do is set up lead scoring rules based on your ideal customer profile. And based on this, your leads will be assigned a score. Now, that's a lot of time saved that you can actually use in pursuing leads with the highest chance of conversion. Now, apart from a marketer's job of bringing you inbound leads, there's one major lead gold mine that a lot of salespeople may be missing out on. Yes, as you can see, I'm talking about trade shows and corporate events. Now, there's no better place to network and generate leads than where customers, distributors, suppliers, and manufacturers all aggregate, right? The best thing about this is that the people who visit trade shows are there to know what's new in the market. So you're not going out and telling them something they don't need to know. So, and they're also interested in knowing how these products and services can help them. So these are the most quality leads you can ever get. And you can also go through a major part of the sales process right there, and the conversion time will be much shorter. But since trade shows are a tad expensive for the best return on your investment, make sure that you select trade shows whose attendee demographics match your ideal customer profile. So the next one is preparing to get in touch with your prospects. That is by gathering all the details you can find about prospects, like their location, pages visited, time spent in each page of your website, their previous interaction with your business, if any. And in the case of B2B sales, this can also include the company and its stakeholders, employee strength, job roles, decision making power, and anything else based on your domain. Now, let's look at a situation where you get a sales call from a random business targeting you. How long would it take the most considerate of us to hang up? A few minutes at the most. Now, let's replay the same scenario, but this time with a leader or someone who's positioned themselves as an expert in the domain or market. Won't we be more receptive towards what they have to say? Now, you can achieve the same by laying some initial groundwork and building some credibility for yourself. So, number one, you need to create a strong online presence. So, you can start by looking for people who are successful in your industry and start by following and building around their strategy with your own personal touch, of course. Now, it need not be all industry expertise on your profile. You can also show your human side and post about what you do in your leisure time or your interests now and then. And collaborating with industry experts, doing an AMA with them, contributing your thoughts on their posts, all this will associate you with them in the minds of your target audience. So that can give you more credibility. Now, though it doesn't hurt to have a presence in all the mediums possible, finding out where your target market is more likely to engage and focusing your efforts there is more important, because in sales, time is very important, and you need to focus your time in what gives you the most return. We all know that negative news and opinions travel faster than positive ones. We see that in action in social media and on television. So make sure that you don't taint your credibility by giving prospects or customers any chance to talk negatively about you. So always try to be genuine and honest with them and promise only what you can deliver. Now, though this may sound like a no brainer, it's very easy for anyone to get carried away when you're so close to making a deal. Now, you also don't want to be associated as a salesperson who just disappears on clients once a sale is done, right? So, another important point to remember is be approachable at all times, especially after you're done with the sale. And finally, if you do end up making an inadvertent mistake in, communicating with them, it's always best to own up to it and make amends if possible. Next, we'll see how to establish contact with these prospects. The first thing you need to get right here is your timing. So you're most likely to make a sale when prospects are actively thinking about their requirement. So Schedule chat triggers in your website, especially on high intent pages like features and pricing page, with relevant messages based on the buyer's profile and their stage in the sales funnel. But don't scare them away with the messages as soon as they land. First, give them some time. So, if they're first time visitors, give them about 20 seconds to look at the page before a chat invite, and 30 seconds if they're repeat visitors. And for follow-up calls and emails, or if your sales involves cold calling, you have a better chance at getting in touch with them on Tuesdays, from Tuesdays to Thursdays. If this is a B2B scenario, that is. And Wednesdays are always the best. And no one likes interruptions while they're working. So try to schedule your calls before your prospect starts their work day, or before they break for lunch, or even late in the afternoon. Now, every sales professional out there probably has researched the same data. So, experiment with different combinations of these and find out what works best for you. Now, if it's a B2C scenario, it's always better to reach out on the weekends or after their workday, when work is not on their head and they're more likely to think about their personal life. And everyone has spam detection in their phones these days. We all do know that. So make sure you don't call from a business number or a long distance number, because however useful you think your product is for your prospects, unless you really get through to them, you can't really make a sale, right? So you have more chances if you call from a personal local number. And despite this, if you do end up in their voicemail, leaving an outstanding pitch that can grab their attention in the initial 18 to 20 seconds can radically increase your chances. Finally, incessant calls trying to get prospects to pick up your calls at any cost will easily land you in a block or spam list, and you can't keep on getting new numbers to talk to your prospects. But at the same time, you can't just give up if your first call goes unanswered. So, after a couple of tries, always send them a crisp conversational email introducing yourself, your business, the pain points you're addressing, and request a callback or a good time to connect. So, if this one goes unanswered, it is possible that your email is buried in their inbox. So, just send one more follow up email if the first one goes unanswered. So, now that we've seen how to establish contact, how do we make the best use of the chance that we've got? So, we have some tactics that will help you improve your rapport with your prospects and boost your chances of conversion. The first one on the list is mirroring your prospects. People are more likely to be receptive if they like you, but a sales cycle is most often too short a period to establish a genuine rapport. So, a short alternative to this is mirroring your prospects. So, now when I say mirroring, what I mean is subtly imitating their body language, communication, and even energy level. So, this technique can help you establish a sense of trust and comfort, and even blur the line between business and personal interactions. Now, there's a scientific backing for this. I'm not just saying this. According to the American Psychological Association, a type of neurons called mirror neurons is responsible for creating a sense of instant connection when we see our behavior mirrored. But you also need to be careful with this technique, because while subtle mirroring can send a signal that you're on the same page as the prospect, imitation that's too obvious or too over the top can give them the impression that you're mocking them, or worse, you can even come out as creepy. So we don't want that. Next, present yourself as an expert who's helping them rather than just a salesperson who's trying to sell a product. Now, people these days hate being sold to, thanks to all the number of products and services available at a click. But we all do love to buy. So pass on the power to them, and instead of trying to sell a product, be more consultative and present yourself as someone with expert knowledge helping them through their buying journey. Now, one more thing to consider here is nobody likes being told what to do. So instead, put forth your suggestions as something that their peer did or something that you would do in their place. Now, the next one may come across as something against the idea of making a sale, but bear with me. Listen more and talk less. Now, it's always a great sales tactic to hear what the prospect wants to say first, even if you think that you have a better idea on the solution they're looking for, or if you think the product can be of more use than they think. So let them drive the conversation and tell you precisely what they want first. So this can help you target the right points with your sales pitch. And at the same time, you also need to ask them the right questions that probe into their thought processes and carefully consider their responses and address them in your sales pitch. Now, while you're at it, you also need to make sure that your prospects feel respected throughout and this whole thing does not feel like an interrogation. The next point is just an extension to the one we discussed. Focus your pitch on customer pain points. So let's face it, people are not interested in a brand, product, or service unless it's a status symbol or their go-to brand for everything. So instead of just talking about all your features, focus your sales pitch on their needs and how your product or service solves their problems or makes their life easier. And like we discussed earlier, collecting complete details on your prospects and having an accurate view of their customer journey can help you here. Next, master the art of storytelling. So when we try to convince someone, we're normally armed with all sorts of facts, data, and statistics, right? But although data is important, studies suggest that only 5% of people remember statistics after a presentation and 63% remember stories. Let's test this right after the session. So, according to the authors of the renowned book Made to Stick, the recipe for any idea to stick is to present it in a simple, unexpected, concrete, and credible way that appeals to their emotions and, yes, use stories. You can use the acronym SUCCESS ending with a single S to remember this. So next time, instead of carrying facts and figures, try presenting stories about relevant experiences of people who've had amazing results with your products or services. Now, this works for one more reason. People are motivated by social proof. So when customers are presented with social proof of what you're saying, they're more likely to be convinced. So the next one, use the primacy effect in your sales pitch. Now, have you noticed that when you're presented with a series of information, you're more likely to remember what was said at the end, followed by what's said in the beginning? And you're most likely to forget the information in the middle of the list. Now, this is a general trend and is called the primacy effect. So in your sales pitch and pricing, try to position the information that you want prospects to remember in the beginning and at the end of the conversation. And if there's any unsavory details, pack it right in the middle. So the next one may also sound like a no-brainer, but it can surprise you to know that how many people get this one wrong. Never badmouth your competitors. So how would you like a person who's gossiping about everyone else in the vicinity? Not much, right? There's a phenomenon called spontaneous trait transference, wherein a person is attributed a trait that they describe as being in someone else. Simply put, the way you describe someone is the way others see you. So always try to be professional and present yourself in a positive light when you're discussing competitors. And if the topic does come up or the prospect wants to know a comparison, Instead of counting your competitors' flaws, sorry about that. So instead of counting your competitors' flaws, tell your prospects what makes you stand apart. So even if customers are talking negatively, however tempting it may be to join them, try to stay neutral and be more objective. At the end of the pitch, when your prospects need that final nudge, offer them a preview of your product. Now, this can either be a free trial or a demo based on your company's policy. Just make sure that there's no financial commitment involved. So don't ask for any payment details for your free trial or demo. So this reduces the risk perception associated with the purchase, and people are far more likely to seal the deal once they get to see the product in action. And finally, give them some type of guarantee, because when we're talking about sales, we are also talking about money. So, however great you think your product could be, people are more willing to part with their money if they know that they're protected in case something does go wrong. So, promising a refund or a replacement in case your offering doesn't meet their expectations is that final step in closing the deal. Just make sure that your money back guarantee is structured right, so that it's not taken undue advantage of. Now, just convincing prospects or making a killer pitch won't get you customers. The next step is equally, if not more important: streamlining your checkout process. Now, there's no use fishing if if you don't care enough to mend your net. So, unless your checkout process is totally frictionless, all that you've done until this point is gonna go waste. So, the most common reasons for cart abandonment can be friction during checkout due to unexpected sales, unexpected processing or shipping charges that wasn't discussed in your sales pitch, complicated site navigation, having to provide payment details for a free trial, like we discussed before, and most often security reasons. So, simplify your checkout process and have all the information in the checkout page. And even if your prospects do get stuck at any point or have any concerns, make sure that they can reach out to your support team immediately. So this can be achieved by offering live chat on your website and mobile app. Now, don't worry if you don't have the bandwidth to handle a huge influx of chats. Now, there are AI bot platforms in the market that can help answer the most commonly asked questions and require human intervention only for the most complicated ones. Now, most of us these days are good with our money, so we invest them in something that constantly gives us regular returns. So let's bring the same thing into sales. You work hard to generate leads, find the ones with the best fit, and try hard to get them to buy from you. But wouldn't it be great if this translated to regular sales? Because without this, you'll always be in a vicious cycle of prospecting, pushing them through the sales funnel, and starting all over again. So, the first step towards this is making sure your customers get the complete benefit out of your product or service. So, your business needs to create an effective onboarding process. So, you can do this with emails or notifications on how to make the best use of the product. Now, once that is covered, you also need to periodically check if the product is meeting their expectations for two reasons. One, a happy customer can give you more sales. And two, just because your customers are not complaining, it does not mean they're happy. So, a majority of unhappy customers simply churn silently. So, I've told you that happy customers will keep buying from your company or suggest your products to their contacts. But to keep hitting your targets at work, you need to make sure your customers refer their friends to you or contact you when they need to make another purchase, right? So try to find ways to keep in contact with customers even after you close a deal. And if it feels appropriate and does not go against your company rules or the laws of your country, try to connect with them personally or on social media and get to know them outside of their business and become more of a peer or a friend rather than just a salesperson. And finally, don't shy away from asking happy customers for referrals. So, according to studies, more than 90% of happy customers are ready to give referrals to a salesperson they like. But sadly, only 10% of salespeople actually ask for one. But before you do this, make sure they've had enough positive experiences with you and your brand. And do this as soon as they express their delight when they're more likely to agree. Now, let's get to the part nobody really likes to face, but is actually inevitable: sales rejections. Now, you may face rejections at multiple stages in your sales process, but you'll need to do a little bit of prodding to figure out if it's a strict no or just a not yet. Because sometimes prospects who may be interested may have budgetary issues or a contract with a competitor that prevents them from buying at that time. So, in such situations, you can always ask them if you can reach out when their finances are better or after their contract ends. And you can also agree on a timeline to connect with them. Now, there can be one more reason for sales rejections. So, your product may not have a feature that they're looking for when you're contacting them. So, in this case, keep their contact and reach out if your product has an upgrade in the future. Now, we all know that you don't get a sales deal in the first interaction with a prospect. 80% of sales deals require at least 5 interactions. So keep that as a standard and make at least 5 attempts before moving on if they are a good fit. Now, don't push them away with too many frequent calls or emails. Now, not just pushing them away, you can also risk being blocked or marked as spam, which we don't want. So space out your calls and emails and make sure that each interaction adds value to them. For example, you can follow your meeting or a sales call with an article or ebook that addresses the pain points that you've just discussed. Now, though it's important not to give up too soon, you also need to know when to stop because you can't just keep going on forever. So, there's a phenomenon called the sunken cost fallacy, whereby people are unwilling to give up on something into which they've already invested their time, energy, and resources and end up wasting more resources that can be used elsewhere. Now, try not getting sucked into this. Instead, see a definitive rejection as an opportunity to refine your sales process. And if at any point your prospect gives you a definitive no, which is good, it's a no. But if they're stuck in a sales cycle for sales stage for too long, despite all your best efforts, stop wasting more time on them. Instead, send them a final breakup email. So, if they were interested in the first place but hadn't gotten the time to respond or take the next steps, this should spur them on. If not, you know that the deal is off. Now, one thing to make sure when you know the deal is off is handling it with grace. So, once it's a no, don't just ghost them. Thank them for the time that they've spent and leave them with some value addition. So this way, they do need your product in the future. They'll immediately think of you instead of going for your competitors. And finally, review your performance and believe in yourself, especially during those tough times. So regularly analyze your sales data, call recordings, email trails, and chats to find scope for improvement and refine your sales process, because no matter how good you are, there's always a scope for improvement. Now, along with this, You also need to compare your sales rejection rate with the industry standard and that of your company to know if you're on par or let's say if you're not happy with your performance. You can also figure out if it's your sales techniques that need a correction or if it's just an industry or company wide issue. And lastly, we all know that sales slumps and rejections are a part of a sales job, but this can also turn the best of us weary or affect our confidence. Now, it's important to put some conscious effort to remain positive through these stages because prospects can tell when you're not confident, and this can negatively affect the deal. So, we've reached the end of the agenda, but here are some bonus sales tips from us. The first one is a productivity tip. So, unless multitasking is actually a thing and improves your efficiency, block off time slots to focus on one activity at a time, like chats, calls, emails, proposals, anything that's part of your sales process. So you can be more efficient at each one instead of juggling it all together. Next, learn from your daily life. As a customer, analyze what draws you or puts you off in sales transactions. So it's always better to learn from others' mistakes than making mistakes of our own, right? Now, always have an agreed upon next step after every quality prospect interaction so that the prospect knows what to do next, and you also don't risk losing a valuable prospect just because you're not following through. And if you can help it, always attempt to contact the right decision maker instead of going in circles and wasting your time. Now, if you're in B2B sales, try to follow your target businesses and industry events and news to keep track of anything that could drive a purchase. It could be a huge downsizing or a hiring spree or maybe even a leadership change. And the last one is the most important. Never attempt to guilt trip a prospect. No matter how good your rapport is or how tempting it is during the month ends, because not only can this affect the sales, even if you get win that particular sale, you can ruin your chances with them in the future, even if they don't say it right then. Now, that was about giving you some tips on improving your sales process. So, if your tech stack has all these functionalities that we've discussed, go ahead, try them out, and do let us know how they've worked for you. But if you're looking for a tool that can help you with these, look no further. Zoho SalesIQ is an all-in-one customer engagement platform that provides you with visitor tracking, lead scoring, profile enrichment, live chat software, codeless bots, an AI-driven answer bot that can answer customer queries based on the data in your knowledge base, and much more. So if you do want to give it a try, just schedule a demo with us or sign up for a free 15-day trial to know it for yourself. I hope you found the webinar informative and interesting. The session is now open for questions, and even if you have any other sales tips that we haven't discussed, you can share it with the entire group. Thank you. If you have any questions or anything to share with the group, you can go on.
Is this included in the CRMS Plus package? And does the standard support that comes with a CRM Plus also help you to install and configure these tools?
Yes, so SalesIQ is included in the CRM Plus. So if you have it, you can just write to us how to access it. And is that it, or is there anything else?
Yeah, and any customization configuration. I don't mean outside of the normal, but you have a lot of great tools that plug into your CRM. Will your support assist in getting those configured and set up so that we're utilizing them?
Yes, so every product has their own support address. So for support, I'll put this in the Q&A box. So it's support@zohocrm.com. And for SalesIQ, it's support@zohosaleSIQ.com. So you can just
Okay,
write to
great.
us with any questions. We also have live chat support in our website, so you can also do that.
All right, excellent. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
all I had.
you're welcome. We do have another question. Hi, Baja. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I've given you permission to talk, so please ask us your questions.
Okay. Hi. Yes, my name is Jose Luis, and I work at a real estate company. And we were discussing when to trigger the chatbot. And some person was thinking, like you said, just a few seconds later, and then just popping up and trying to reach the client. And I was thinking that we should somehow engage the clients a little bit more before we bother them or tap them on the shoulder to ask them for their information. So my question is that approach correct? Are we giving our information too easily, or our tools for searching properties too easily? Or
No.
is there
So
right?
what I meant in that step is not asking them for their information. So it's always possible that someone's interested in your product and they are in your pricing page, and they probably have some questions, but they don't really click on that chat button and ask you. So instead of losing them, so that could be a chance to check if they have trouble figuring out your pricing plans, or if they need to know more about the product. So that's what I was talking about. So based on where they are in the sales cycle, use relevant messages. So if they are towards the end, you can ask them more about their details and all that. But maybe if they're just a first time visitor looking at a product for too long and not doing anything, not going into another page, you can just go there and ask them if they're having any trouble and help them out. Is that
Okay.
clear?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Since we are running out of time and it's almost been an hour since we started, so I'll just quickly go through the Q&A section. Yes, so someone has talked about the slide where we talked about, behind a no, there may be several issues. So they said they use a BANT sequence to validate. So this is BANT, where B is for budget, A is for authority, meaning do they have the authority to make the decision, N for need, do they need your product, and T for timeline, how long will it take for them to actually buy your product. So thanks for sharing that. And someone's asked if there's a way to track or market anonymous users who are visiting the website. Yes, we do have a visitor tracking feature. So if you are in the EU or any of the countries that does not allow this, you can switch it off. So there's an option for that too. So we have an option to track your visitors, and we also have a profile enrichment tool that figures out who your customers are from their email IDs. And we also have integrations with Clearbit Reveal and Clearbit Enrichment, so those also help you with this. Someone's asked about our pricing and all that. So if you have any questions regarding all that, please visit our website. So I'll just put this down in the chat. So it's www.zoho.com/salesiq. And we also have the pricing page and everything. And you can also write to us in the support ID mentioned. It's support@zohosalesiq.com. And someone said that we need separate chats for separate verticals. That is also possible with SalesIQ. So you can just set up departments for each vertical. If it's for sales, marketing, or support, you can just assign them to the right stuff. We do have user documentation in our website that tells you about all this. So thank you all for attending this session. I hope you found it useful. And yes, we'll be emailing you the recording and the presentation deck. Thank you.